But I didn't know it was going to do that. But I titled it "How to Go Viral" because it was a joke about how Kamala's Zoom call got 48 million views after the election. And I was like, we knew you had it in you. Like it was like just really this really like quick whip. Like
that's a great statement you just made, and that's what I believe separates people like yourself, people like me, people like Jeff Bezos, people like Elon Musk. Not that we're in the same realm as they are, but our mindset and our thought process is the same.
But a lot of stuff that's happening right now seems biblical to me. We talk about the flood and the rising waters, but the rising water is always a reference to currency. The rising interest rates and costs are going to drown people. They already are.
Where every detail is tailored just for you. That's the Dream Vacations and Rentals by PMI difference. We're not just another rental company. We're your personal vacation curators focused on you, our guest. From hand-picked properties to curated local experiences, we craft personalized journeys. Our marketing reaches you with the perfect options, matching your unique travel style. With Dream Vacations and Rentals by PMI, your perfect getaway is just a click away. Visit our website to book your dream vacation today and experience the PMI difference.
All right, welcome my beautiful people. I got a very interesting show today, but again, welcome to Short Stays, Big Dreams, the podcast where we dive deep into the world of STR, real estate investing, travel, and making money with all three. Now, today, I got a good friend of mine that I've known for a long time. And if you're not following this guy on TikTok, I highly recommend you follow him. Now, we're going to kind of deviate from our standard podcast because I think we're going to dive into crypto. Ben's been into marketing. We might touch that. But more importantly, right now, this is more of me trying to get into the head and the mind and the thought process that Ben has. So without further ado, Ben, tell us who you are and what you're about, buddy.
I'm a guy having fun right now. I just turned 48 on Monday, and the whole world's in a spiritual awakening right now, you might say, and mine was many years ago. So to me, it's like I was just talking about this with you backstage in the green room, right? We call it on the podcast, where it's like I really pride myself in being able to distinguish between fact and interpretation. And I say often, like, facts tend to soothe, not outrage you. And if they're outraging you, then they're subjective facts. They're not really complete story facts. So what I was watching was what was I talking about that? I was saying that I was talking about how I was on my entrepreneurial journey in like 2018, all the way from like last time we spoke. You and I. So Fernando and I know each other from CrossFit way back in the day when he owned the gym and I worked out there. It's just like 2011, 12, something like that.
Yeah.
And since then I've done a lot. Sales, I've coached people in groups, entrepreneurs, digital marketers. I've done digital marketing myself, Google Ads, Facebook, all that stuff. And I was on that journey. I've also designed trainings. I've coached people. Like there's a lot of stuff that I've kind of played with, right? And I was on that journey all the way until about 2020. Like probably most people. Like I'm not paying attention. Like I don't know who's going to see this and whatnot, but I already understand how the voting machines work. And I learned that in 2004. And if anybody's not seen the movie Hacking Democracy on DVD, you can't get it on streaming. I highly recommend going to watch that. You'll see how it was in 2000 and 2004. And then you can just extrapolate out with how technology has gotten to be so remote and so lightning quick that what's going on now with this is like, I just kind of stepped out of participating in the voting and political stuff. I was a Democrat, raised Democrat, and I was in my 20s or around 2000. And like, I was very not happy with like Bush winning twice. That was like, oh my God, I like a lot of people are right now. I was like, oh my God, it's the end of the world, like that kind of stuff. But that movie kind of opened my eyes to like, oh, the machines are just, forget it. We're not going to talk. The point is that I stopped paying attention to all that and went on like this massive entrepreneurial and spiritual journey over the next 15 years. And it's like in 2020, I had to like start paying attention like a lot of people did. So I would watch, and I was like no Trump fan. I'm not this person fan. Obama, whatever. You know, it's not my world. And if all of a sudden got shoved in my face because I'm like, well, you got to stay at home and you got to watch the screens. I'm like, all right, so let's start having Zoom calls with people, start talking about topics and things like that. And I would watch Trump do his live news conference. And this is where it comes back to the point. I really like pride myself in being able to distinguish between facts and say interpretation. And like when I see that happening on a mass level, I was like, all right, maybe I should start like presenting myself in the world, because I've done a lot of work on myself to do this kind of stuff, but through content, right? So I would watch Trump say something and then completely get distorted by the time it hit the news and twisted and curated to create emotional outrage. I'm like, no wonder everybody's so upset the last 4, 5, 6 years. I'm like, oh my God, like the light bulb went off. I'm like, why is everybody so crazy? And I actually witnessed it, and I'm just like, all right. And you know, that was very eye-opening for me to know. I knew it happened in the world, but what really became obvious to me was that the destabilization agenda that's always been done overseas got turned in on the United States. That's what became very obvious.
100%. 100%.
That was really
Wow.
obvious to me. That specific, like, okay, they've been destabilizing governments around the world for decades. And all of a sudden, it's like in one summer, like the whole place is like burning down. I'm like, all right, this is interesting. This is very interesting. So TikTok, I'll just jump to that really quick. TikTok I'm just playing with it. I started playing with it at the end of 2023. And then I took a break. And you know, when you start on doing content, it can be very daunting, because like I've done, and I could show you some of the stuff later. I've got my own stuff, like where I've designed a training, delivered it to a group of people on Zoom and things like that, with things with the whiteboard and, you know, mindset and sales and entrepreneurship and role play and introducing tools, and to help people kind of like distinguish between those things, like factor interpretation, getting really great tools to help you stay aligned on the entrepreneurial journey. I kind of called it bridging the gap from employee to entrepreneur gracefully. Was kind of like where I sat there for a few years. And the whole idea of doing content was different, because I never knew video editing. And through one of the projects I worked on, I learned video editing around 2019 and 20. And then it just kept getting, okay, I can start. I got training tutorial videos was what I was doing. The red boxes and the arrows and the narrating and showing you how to use systems and things like that. That's where I learned video editing. But in doing content, it's a little bit different, because a lot of people have an issue getting in front of the camera. That's not my concern. I've done that way too many times to even be. What it was like having it get traction. And if it doesn't get traction right away, it can be very like daunting, very demoralizing. So, you know, I found the right person to follow on TikTok, which if anybody needs advice on a coach, I got a guy that just shows you how to do it. Because I got to tell you, Fernando, I don't like walking up to a tree with a dull axe and swinging 100 times and hoping the tree falls down. I either want to and have the tree fall, or I walk up to the forest and the forest just gets out of the way because they know what's coming.
Right.
So it's
wait. Back up a little bit. First of all, so going back to TikTok and content creation and editing and all that stuff, right? Now, you got into that world, and when did you take off? Because and the reason I asked the question is because it's only been recently, I would say probably within the last 8, 9 months, that you're everywhere, and you're it seemed like you're exploded. But I know you've been in you know, in TikTok and a while for a little bit. So walk me through that process. You know, how did you meet this guy? How did he help you? You know what?
So it's exactly what I was saying, actually. I just, the way that I see the way the mind works, right? And the way that our actions take place from the mind. It's like we have our intention, we have our result. And in between the intention and result are all the committed choices that we make with our belief systems, our attitudes, our actions, our incongruent, contradictory, what they say, hypocritical stuff like that gets on our way that has the result not line up. So I like to have my intention and my commitment lined up so I get maximum result. I'm lazy. Let me be really clear. I'm lazy. I don't want to do the same thing over and over again and get paid every once in a while. That's not the way I operate. I would like to get paid. I like to do something once, minimal amount of work, maximum yield. So it's a thought process and an approach to thinking. So I like to have the intention and the commitment lined up so the result yields maximum value. So it takes practice, right? You don't do that right away. And everything new that you start, as you know, I mean, I'd love to hear how you got from CrossFit to what you're doing now. Like we haven't had any of that conversation in a long time, right? That comes later. But everything you have to start something, which is the Four Agreements. If you're familiar with that book, it's very much ingrained in my operating system. And I'm also, as you know, I used to work at AT&T as a troubleshooter. I worked for the phone company for 12 years. Expert master troubleshooter. There's no disputing that. Anywhere I worked was it was really easy for me. It took a lot of work though to get to that place. So I transfer that skill set over. And when you apply the Four Agreements to troubleshooting, anything we run into in life, if you just do your best, it optimizes your thinking. If you push through and do some action where a place where you think you're stuck, we already laid out all the answers before we got there spiritually. The answers are always there. We have to do our best and push through the I don't knows and I'm not sure and like the world's falling apart. Like you have to push through that with some action. And usually everything kind of lines up and you find the abundance. So I have this like rewired brain when it comes to that stuff with the troubleshooting and the spiritual Four Agreements and like this other stuff I'm talking about with like, how do I align my mind? And I push through things, especially when I hit a roadblock. And when it pops out on the other side, you start seeing, like, to answer your question, or part of your question, I should say, about when did it blow up. It took practice because I didn't do it consistently, and I don't do it consistently. Like, I haven't done a video in almost a week. I did a couple trolling videos. Like, I'll send it to you on Facebook. You're gonna laugh. You're gonna laugh so much. It's so funny. I've thought about making the broken liberal mind a platform to land distinctions on. Like, here, look at this contradictions in thinking. Like, how are you not suffering all the time in the mind with these types of thinking styles? It just doesn't. And really, like, that to me is like this thing that's standing out in society right now. Is that now? Do I really want to use my voice for that? Not necessarily. And you have to also go with the flow of the river sometimes, right? So I did different types of content on TikTok. Like, my favorite type of content is deep language study. I see language like the ocean. Most people hang out on the surface. It's very turbulent, very difficult to like get your bearings sometimes because it can be very, very rough. Sometimes it can be calm and you can get results on the surface. But everything about the ocean you would want to know is underneath. It's below the surface. And then how deep do you go? So I like to examine language in that way. And I like to do content like that. So on my profile, if you look at on TikTok, I've got a playlist that says distinctions in language. You'll see some of that. That was some of this first stuff that went viral for me. I got like 15, 20,000 views. But I was also learning from this guy. His name is Paul Livefree Francis. Great guy out in Tulsa. All he does is sit on TikTok and teach people how to go viral. And he teaches you SEO, how to frame it, hooks, things like that. And I'm only doing about half about what he suggested because he usually is helping people that are selling a product, right?
Right.
So he'll tell you how to frame it for a product. I'm like, I don't know what my product is. I just know I want to go viral. And I'm like, so I just said, he's like, you really want to pick one topic and hang around that because that's what's going to do. I'm like, I want to see how many different ways I can go viral and break that mold. So the first thing I did was a couple language distinctions where I interwove it. And this is really a powerful niche on TikTok. If you can and the niche, whatever the word is, that I figured out that I'm good at is storytelling. So I figured if I storytell around certain topics that people that listen to stories will fall into the fold. But if you can take, say, like things that are currently happening right now and topics that people are talking about and attach content to it, people are searching for it. It's like YouTube. It's a search engine, right? So some of the first things I did that really went to like 500,000 million views was a 7-second Kamala video. A 7-second video about Kamala where I'm like, what did I say? It was 7 seconds. The first one was like, wow. And here's how God really shows up in this stuff for me. That was the first video that really, really went viral, like 500,000. I think it's like 600,000 views now. And this was a few months ago. But I didn't know it was going to do that. But I titled it "How to Go Viral" because it was a joke about how Kamala's Zoom call got 48 million views after the election. And I was like, we knew you had it in you. Like it was like just really this really like quick whip. Like that's what it was. Kamala Zoom call. So the search term is Kamala and Zoom call, right? That's the title. You SEO and you kind of work it into the language. And so it's a 7-second video that says Kamala. Did you hear Kamala Zoom call? Got 48 million views. We knew you had it in you. And it's so funny. If you know me, you know that I'm not a fan of hers. You also know that I'm Jewish and witty and got a little edge and sarcastic. But if you don't know me, it slips right past you. Most of the people that are liking that video are blue.
Right.
So it's like almost like, okay, taking what God's giving me. I'm like, all right, even they get to have an awakening at some point, right? So just let it. So that was the first one that did that. Then I did another one where it was like, because I like piecing things together that people don't piece together like this. The second one was I wanted to thank President Biden for handing everything off to a younger generation of leadership. Promises made, promises kept. Except he handed it off to the other team who's younger. Trump's younger, and all the people he appointed is younger. But people didn't get, they thought I was just being like liberal, gooey, like, thank you, Mr. Biden. I'm like, no, I'm literally thanking him for handing it off to the Trump team, who's now fucking kicking ass. You know what I mean? But again, mostly blue people, because they're like, oh my God, someone's on our side, right? They're just liking it, sharing it, and another 500,000 views. So
it's funny that you say that, because now I'm thinking back on my content, and when when Trump got elected, I believe when he got elected, or just before he got elected, he started nominating his
first
cabinet.
time or the second time?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, when he started nominating his cabinet. Well, I made a joke and I posted a and this is what's really, really funny. I did a post and it says that Trump was nominating me as head of short-term rentals in the US. And I posted it and it had Trump's picture, whatever. It got tons of view, tons of engagement. I was getting private messages because people actually believed that I actually got nominated by Trump. I'm like, it's a joke, people.
I get it.
Yeah. So this is one of the posts that I did. And then we
Classic.
did another one that, because I was seeing everybody, especially on the liberals on the left, were all complaining. Did you hear what Trump said? Did you see what Trump did?
You
So I
played
did
into
another
it.
one very similar to that. It's a video, and then I posted them, and I said, hey, did you see what Trump did today? I didn't, because I've been working my butt off growing my business, and you should be doing the same. Off to work.
I saw that. That I saw. Yeah, I definitely saw that.
But it's funny that you say that, because you're 100% right, and I never really thought about it that way. And Lorena, take note, because that's a good strategy.
It's a totally good shot. I was talking to my friend about it. I'm like, I found a way to go viral on TikTok that both people see the same message. Think about it. Think about what I said in the beginning. Minimal amount of effort, maximum yield. 7 seconds, 500,000 views. Like that. That's ideal for me. So I look for those types of results to match up to my intent. And when I see it, it's very empowering. I'm like, okay, got it. So what I learned is that, and I'm a technical guy, right? I'm a technical, but I can apply and deliver value and capture attention and things like that. And I deliver trainings from stages and things like that. I've got a lot of conversations we can have. So I was noticing what was working, what wasn't working, right? And a lot of the tools that the guy was giving me, the coach, they work really well, because it's very basic. And I'm like, once you really kind of just wrap your head around what he's telling you, you can really apply it to almost any niche. Really can. And I have a way of overcoming some of the tools that he does tell people to do, like hooks. You're going to want to save this video. I don't do any of that. I'm not asking for anything. I'm just there to have fun and deliver value. Now, what I did do was if people that are watching have heard of XRP, it's becoming very mainstream in the news, and Trump's talking about it, and it's a deep conversation, just like I was talking about the ocean. But I started doing some XRP content, and those really took off. And I was
What,
like,
so what is, 'cause I'm not familiar with that. What is that?
XRP?
Yeah.
Okay. This is a really deep conversation, but let's keep it to the technical aspect of it. So XRP is becoming the new global neutral bridge liquidity in and out of other forms of value that you can send across the world in 3 seconds. So if you have 100 grand, you've done real estate. How long does it
Yeah.
take to transfer $250,000?
Well, if you're doing it in a wire, it may take a day or two for the bank to process all that. And the larger it is, the longer it takes.
Right. So, and what's that end up costing?
Financial transactions through traditional means, it does take a while, and it does get expensive. There it is.
Okay, so that's the problem. Also, okay, so let's go one layer deeper on that.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
yeah, I mean, like some of these get lucky, right? But and then when you start to see like the approach and the system that gets you into that stream that takes off, then you can like reapply that in a different area because you don't always want to be facetious. You don't always want to be, because it gets old, and you can only go so
right.
far with that. If you're not delivering actual value, then you get lucky with it, right? And you can keep doing that, but where's the real value? Is really kind of the idea. That's why I don't do trolling liberals videos too much. And when I did, it's like a little toy for me. I'm like, yeah, like I could put this one together. The one I did today is like, it's brilliant. But no. I'm serious. It's really exciting stuff for me to like be able to see how someone's. They're very simple broken minds. They've
Yeah,
been broken, and they're in this like cycle of not being present ever, ever. They're always present to their beliefs and their feelings about their beliefs, which feelings are in the moment, beliefs are rooted in the past. So it's a mixture of always being in your emotions about your beliefs and never being present to what's actually happening. So nothing makes sense. You can see them all saying nothing makes sense right now. It's like because you're not present. It's just when you come down to every problem in the world, it's just that. Is somebody present? Are they present? Or are they present to the story? Are they present to the moment? Or are they present to the story they have about the moment? That's it. That's the
right.
whole. That's life right there. So the XRP stuff, right? So you can the banks when they transfer, let's say large wealth transfers, like for institutions, banks, the big central banks, the SWIFT system. We've all heard the name SWIFT.
Right.
They keep about $30 trillion liquid in these accounts. Are you familiar with Nostra Vostra accounts?
Yes.
Okay, so that's what this is about. XRP is solving that problem because they have $30 trillion locked up in those accounts. So, because for anybody watching, Nostra Vostros, those accounts that they hold $30 trillion in, it's the accounts that they use as liquid to move other people's money through to guarantee the payment from one side to the other. It ensures because it's like in real estate, you can't go if you're a cash buyer, you can't just go make an offer on a house without a proof of funds. You have to show somebody you have the money. Same thing with money moving. You can't just move money. You have to have the money. And these banks have all this money locked up. So XRP, there's a lot to research on it. It goes all the way back to so the same people that designed Bitcoin designed XRP. Bitcoin, BTC stands for beta test coin. That's all it really is. You think about it in terms of technology and things like that and software, beta and then XRP is the final version because when you really get into the weeds of it, the same people designed both of them. And some people believe the story, but they don't know who Satoshi Nakamoto, this amazing fantasy people have about Bitcoin and how they don't know who created it. I'm like, you don't think somebody knows who created it? You're like, come on, bro, come on, don't fool yourself. You know what I mean? So XRP, what it does is it solves all the problems that Bitcoin presented as a solution. Like Bitcoin was an idea and a solution to something that resonated with the people of like breaking free from government, decentralized money, all that stuff, right? But it's very expensive. It costs a lot to mine and energy. It's very slow. If you read, this is how you know something's off with Bitcoin. Right? There's a number of ways, but here's what you read the white paper for Bitcoin. This is for all of my Bitcoin friends. I'm like, I don't have anything about. I'm a tech guy, so it doesn't either make sense or it doesn't make sense. And all technology, it's like Bitcoin is like Windows 3.11. That's really all there is to it. But Bitcoin, when you read the white paper, it's a peer-to-peer cash transfer system. That's what it's supposed to be. But it sucks for that design. So people call it a store of value instead. They call it digital gold. They change the narrative. It's like changing the narrative from global warming to climate change because you have to fit,
Right.
the narrative fits the results rather than coming back and saying, well, the design, the intention's off. So if you come at it from a design approach, like I'm an engineer, it makes sense to me because if Bitcoin was supposed to be that and like it's really not that, you can do it, but it can take hour, 2 hours to get your money through. XRP, no matter how large a transaction, is 3 seconds.
Wow.
3 seconds. That's it. The technology, it's also being designated as that global liquidity. It's kind of, you might say it's like how they're going to usher people into this new one world system kind of thing. It's all done through finance. But you're either ahead of it or you get hit by it. It's like, you're either aware of it or you're not. You're either going with the flow of the river or you're fighting against it. The world is being taken to a very specific place of blockchain and everything. And if you just think about it in terms of problem solving, one of the reasons that they have all this stuff going on with the government and USAID and the shutdown of the payment systems, because they're ready to shift us over to this new system. And Trump is very much in favor. If you've seen, the entire government is now crypto friendly. Over 300 representatives got elected to the House of Representatives that are pro crypto. I knew when Mike Johnson got elected 2.5 years ago that he was super pro crypto XRP. I knew that. I'm like, oh, look at these things just coming together really slowly, right? Trump never mentioned it till he was in his campaign, which is really smart. Went right to the Bitcoin people, got their vote. But what came along with Bitcoin was XRP because the whole market goes with that, right? So he went to the Bitcoin people to get their vote. And now they're talking about not even having Bitcoin in like the strategic reserve. And the international countries are like, no, it has to be liquid, which Bitcoin is not. So they're going to serve different functions. I'm not going to say Bitcoin doesn't have value, but the design has failed. And really, it was just a beta. And when we think about this in long-term timelines, this first 25 years, 30 years of the internet was just a blip to get everybody onto what's coming next. So we're either paying attention to that or we're not. And I say we also consented to all of it once we stepped onto the internet, because that's where everything's going anyways. Most payments are almost instantaneous anyways already. PayPal, Venmo, Zelle, all that's going to be interchangeable. So if you have PayPal, you'll be able to send it to Venmo. These technologies are going to allow for that. So it's really, there's a lot of innovation with it. So all these systems it's the neutral bridge liquidity. So if you think about it like this, the banks hold the power to transfer the money. They control the money. They transfer the money for us, right? This technology decentralizes that power and spreads it out to anybody that has the technology, so that the banks have to come back and share in that technology with everybody else, creating a level playing field. So the power is actually decentralized, is what's happening. And then everybody's agreeing.
Yeah. Now, because that's a very interesting topic, right? And the reason I say it's super interesting, and we can definitely go down a rabbit hole here, but I want to briefly, I don't want to go too deep into this rabbit hole, but
We're talking about TikTok.
But I do want to ask you this, because that's extremely interesting. Now, just a little bit of context in terms of currency. Almost my entire career in my past life was dealing with currency and money laundering. And
That's right.
So very familiar how a lot of the stuff works. But here's what I find extremely interesting, because you have people talk about and countries and some cities. Philadelphia was one of them recently, not too long ago, who were trying to go cashless, which obviously didn't work. They went back. They changed their legislation to do away with that. But because at the end of the day, and I don't see how we're going to get around this part, but I want your take on this. At the end of the day, whatever currency or whatever, let's say this becomes something valuable. At the end of the day, someone's going to receive cash. There has to be an actual cash transaction. at the lowest form.
Yep.
So walk me through that process for the average day person that's going and buying into, hey, let's go cashless. Let's get into everything digital. I mean, I'll, I'll go as far back as, I, I'm older than you by
I was
almost,
going to ask. That's
almost,
the first question I was going to ask you.
yeah.
let,
I'm
let,
older
let,
than you by almost two decades.
let me answer. I know a question you're asking.
Okay.
Let's get into it, right? Because it's a
Right.
scary topic to go cashless. First of all,
Right.
right? People have a lot of issues with that. They're like, oh my god, you have no privacy and things like that with no cash, right? So I agree. There's going to be some form of cash. Think about it like this. One of the things, if you think about, okay, so how old are you? Where are you at now?
I'm 56.
Okay, so you only got 10 years on me. You're not even there. I just turned 48 Monday, just so we're all transparent on this podcast. So you're definitely, I would say you're definitely like way ahead of me in accomplishments and things like that. Right. Here's the thing with this stuff. You have to think about it in terms of how history repeats itself, and that innovation and technology, nothing really stops it. So it's like either you're fighting it, you're in resistance to reality, or you're kind of going, and you're making. It's like one of the best lines is like in Doctor Strange. She the what's her name? The Grand Master in the first one, the teacher that's teaching Doctor Strange. She's like, you can't fight a river, and you can't fight a river into submission. You can't fight the current of the river, but you can surrender to the river and make its power your own for a little bit and get downstream before everybody else that's still fighting, and make your place, right? So that's kind of how this stuff works. It's like the world is being taken to a very specific place. The question is are we afraid of it? And often I find that fear narratives don't really support in delivering any kind of value or any kind of actionable, how can I make this work? Leverage. How can I leverage this? You can't leverage something unless you're grateful for it, period. Not even like a self-limiting belief. You can leverage one of those too.
That's a great statement you just made. And that's what I believe separates people like yourself, people like me, people like Jeff Bezos, people like Elon Musk. Not that we're in the same realm as they are, but our mindset and our thought process is the same. A, you can't be afraid. B, you have to always, I'm an old school Marine. And when I went to the Marine Corps, one of the things that they repeatedly said every time was, you're Marine, you always need to adapt and overcome. We need to adapt to the ever-changing world, because if you don't adapt, you're going to be left behind. And I always give the examples of companies like Blockbuster, Sears. What was another big one back in the day? Kmart, it's another company, no longer around. They were at the top of the
J. Byron's.
Yes. So continue, because what you just said, and I need the audience to really understand that what he just said was gold.
You cannot leverage something unless you're grateful for it first. It will always work against you. You want things working for you in the flow and not working against you at odds with it. And the only way to do that is to become grateful for what's happening. And when it's a connection with God. Let's be clear, right? Because if you understand you're not in control, and there's like a connection, right? But God's always going to give us what we need rather than what we want. What we want's on the other side of that stuff. All right. So you start going after your vision, everything's going to get put in your way, and you have to obstacle, because that's the path, right? Otherwise, you're just kind of like not doing it. Anyways, going back to the point, you can't leverage something unless you're grateful for it. And with this, think about it in terms of, do you still do paper mail, or is everything digital for you now? Like
no, everything's digital for me.
Okay.
Yeah,
at one time you did use paper, right?
Yes.
Do you remember people when email first came out and people were afraid to use it, and the people still are afraid to do online payments? Like my mom still does paper envelopes and sends her checks in every month. Do you know people that still do that?
I personally don't, but I know there's a lot of people that still do that.
Okay, it's the same phenomenon. If you can acknowledge that you are able to transfer value, physical value, through digitally through an email to get to the other side, so that you can then either print it out or file it, you'll understand This is how money's being upgraded.
Right.
To answer the
Right.
question about where's the cash. So you're talking about the transfer protocol of cash is changing. The power of that transfer protocol is, again, where it was once centralized to the banks and the institutions. It's been drained out, you might say, and distributed at a fractional level through this technology. And you have an opportunity to get some now, which is what XRP is. There's an ecosystem of financial tokens. It's not just a like it's the new. It's not a. You really have to understand. You don't want to play like idolization with these things. You want to come at it with a methodical approach. What makes sense? How does this one interact? It's their systems, right? But XRP is this very unique one, which is again a whole other episode, right? But that's what's happening. To answer your question, is if I'm in, let's say, London, and you're over in South Florida, and I want to send you 100 grand, it's gonna, with this new technology, which by the way costs basically nothing to do a transfer and takes 3 seconds. So what's going to happen to the consumer? They're not even going to know we switch. What they're going to see is that the transfer only takes 3 seconds, and the bank's going to charge them more than ever. So they're going to be happy because it's more convenient, but it's going to cost more. So it's costing the bank less to do it now and less time, and they're making more. They're going to make a killing on this technology. That's what's happening. So there's an opportunity to get some before this. There's a lot that's going to happen this year. I don't want to speculate, but there's, regulation is already written. They're implementing this, again, very pro crypto friendly government that just came in. The Trumps were debanked in the last year and a half. I don't know. People don't really pay attention to that kind of stuff, but the banks didn't want to do business with them anymore. The sons and things like that. So they stepped into DeFi, decentralized finance, and they started to learn like, have you ever made a transfer with, say, crypto or XRP or anything like that, like personally?
Not XRP, because again, I mean, maybe accidentally I have, but I've done tons of crypto transactions. I mean, I purchased real estate with crypto.
Okay.
So go ahead.
So when you make your first with nobody else involved, and you don't need permission, and you have full control over your liquid, when you make your first transfer in 3 seconds for 50 or 100 grand, it all makes sense to you. When you see it happen, it hollows out the middle system. It everything that the banks do, it just like it's point to point, peer to peer cash transfer system. What Bitcoin was intended to do is what XRP is doing. And there's very deep narratives. Like it's got governments that are partners. All the BRICS nations are partners. Brazil, huge Ripple partner. Russia, India, China, South Africa. You think these wars are by accident, throwing Russia off the SWIFT system? You think that they cared? They went right over to the blockchain and started using that. It's all part of the story. These very layered stories about what's happening. And there's a lot of things coming to an end. So there's a rebirth. There's a lot of things coming to an end. There's a rebirth. We're going through a renaissance, you might say. You know what I mean? But once you see the technology, yeah. But so to come back to your question, if I send you 100 grand and I send it through a bank that's leveraging XRP technology, which is not only the technology, it's very smart currency. It's almost like it's alive. Like it has a true, our money, our dollars, our cash has no pure intention other than what we do with it. It doesn't have a function, not a specific function. It's like you get to choose where that money goes. Pay your bills, buy this, buy that, eat food. You decide as a person where that. XRP is not like that. Cryptocurrency is not like that. Every token, every coin serves and solves a very particular problem. It's a very particular service it provides. So you're not spending it on dinners. It's not even designed for that, right? So it's a very specific problem that it's solving, a very specific solution that it's presenting. Of now these $30 trillion of Nostra Vostra accounts, the banks can free that up and just use XRP because it's being agreed upon globally to be the new liquid to move money through. So when I send you 100 grand, you're going to get 100 grand in pounds is going to go right through XRP as liquid and spit out the other side $100,000 to you, or whatever the equivalent the exchange is. That's how that works. Super simple. It's a pass through. It's really all it is.
Yeah, exactly. I was just about to say that it's like a pass-through account or a transaction, a mechanism to bypass
Email.
Uh, right.
It's literally light speed transfer of information, but it's light speed transfer of value. The
Pretty
new
cool.
internet is called the Finternet, the financial internet. And the XRP ledger looks to be the new foundation of the entire internet, because everything's going to be done through that. And coming back to like, how do you tie this into like really what's happening in the world? Well, if people that are fighting for this old system, I don't want to go digital. I don't. It's very all that stuff. You have to look at it almost spiritually. The system we have right now, completely corrupt. There's no accountability. There's no transparency. You're not anonymous. You're not in control of your money. If you have $100,000 sitting in the bank and you go over there to withdraw it, they're going to tell you they don't have it. It's imaginary. They don't have the money sitting in the bank, right?
Yeah,
So
people don't. That's a good
fake.
statement. People don't. Yeah, people don't realize that. Let's say, for example, you've been saving all your life. You got $500,000 in the bank. People don't realize you can't walk up to the bank and say, "Hey, I want my 500,000."
It's imaginary.
You can't. Yeah, it doesn't happen. In fact, you can't even in some banks today. You can't even pull out 15,000, let alone 100,000.
They'll tell you come back in 3 weeks. That's what they do.
Yes, they're gonna tell you you need to set an appointment, and and it's not gonna be right away. And then
you need permission.
Yes.
We want to make sure we approve all that stuff. We're the old system is all about permission and approval, and that hinders leadership. People are conditioned to. I say the number one thing that gets people stuck before they take action is the permission to take action. I say the number two thing that gets people stuck is looking for approval after they take action. So permission and approval, we're bouncing back and forth. Is it okay for me to do it? After I did it, can you give me some like praise for it? And that absolutely neuters leadership across the board, because it keeps people from action, and then it keeps people from evaluating the result properly in order to optimize. We're just looking for approval, like people pleasing kind of thing, right?
Now, Ben, let me ask you this. Because
hold on. Let me finish this point real quick. So coming back to like this system, it's all these things, right? It's opaque. There's no accountability. There's no transparency. It's rules for thee, but not for me. Like you need permission and stuff from the bank to do stuff. This other system is, okay, you're not invisible, but you're anonymous. You're a wallet address. Okay. Everything is on a public ledger, real time. So it's recorded, everything. And it's trackable, all of it. It's more efficient. It's incorruptible. It's all of these things that the old system is not. So until somebody presents me with like a better solution to this nonsensical dollar system we have, where people think that and it's hiding a lot of stuff that's now coming to light. Look at all the stuff that's been hidden in this opaque system. The USAID, the people getting paid off, the kickbacks, the trafficking, even Bitcoin's tainted in that way where it's like they've used it for trafficking and things like that. It's tainted, Bitcoin is. People think too much about, what the dollar value, and that's it. And they sell their soul. No matter how that dollar value got to where it's at, it's worth that, and I want that. But it was off the blood of people, you know what I mean? So it's even that's tainted. These new systems cannot be used for that. So what you're seeing also, and you can now already see, I knew this was happening right when they did it, because if you're paying attention to the narrative, you can see, of course, that you can't work on the engine. You can't upgrade the engine or even replace the engine with the car on the road. You have to put it on the rack, take it out of service, take it apart, and only put back together the parts that make sense, which are the legitimate payments, but cut them over to the new system. Right? So that's what's going to happen, as far as I can tell. Like intuitively, that's what I would say. Shut the system down, get rid of the fat, call out the people that are stealing from it, and then you only turn back on the legitimate systems. Social Security for people that are alive, money for grandma in her wheelchair over here. Like, you find the legitimate systems and you turn those back on, where everybody's in a panic. But you can, once this stuff's all on a public ledger, which is what blockchain provides, you can't hide corruption.
Right.
You can't. So I wanted to kind of finish that point, because that's really, there's a spiritual aspect to this stuff. Instead of being afraid of new technology, it's like, look at what's not possible with these new systems. You can't do child trafficking and laundering on an XRP ledger. You can't. All of these and so what? There's a public accountability ledger. Oh my God, finally, right? We've all
Well,
been
that's
asking
one of the
for it.
reasons why. That's one. If you follow what's happening in El Salvador, it's one of the reasons um, why when they switched over to Bitcoin as their official currency, one of the reasons why they did so was because of the, not that it's not incorruptible, makes it harder for you to be
Yeah,
corrupted.
yeah,
And corruption in many parts of the world is what prevents it from advancing to a better civilization, you know, moving forward in the right direction. Like I always talk about Colombia because it's by far one of my favorite countries in the world. Spent a lot of time there, invested a lot of money there. Uh, the people are beautiful. But what always keeps Colombia from advancing to where it should be, because they have natural resources, they have everything they need, is corruption. The corruption there is out of control. If they had this as a official currency, makes it a lot harder. Now, it's interesting because from right now, and you probably already know the answer to this, what I'm about to say, the number, because this is the funny part. It is easier to corrupt the system, but right now the people that are using the system the most are corrupt people, drug traffickers, money launderers, um, you name it. They're going away from actually transporting, a car with a trap in it with $1 million in it. They don't, they're doing away from that, and they're going into this system so they can change and move their money around because it's safer for them. Right now, from a law enforcement perspective, if and when you can have the ability to actually find the water, then it's game over. But it's just so difficult to do and almost impossible to do. But that's interesting. And the other thing that I want to kind of wrap this particular subject up with is the fact that um, I don't I don't see it, just like going cashless. I don't see it happening anytime soon on a grand scale, mainly because even today, majority of the world or people in the majority of the world don't even have a bank account. So if they can't even have a bank account or open a bank account, there's no way they can have access to this particular system because they're. I don't want to offend anyone when I say, but when you live in a small jungle of Colombia, I mean, you don't even have internet. So to have access to even internet, it's impossible. So it's definitely an interesting topic.
A couple things with that. So
Yeah,
what's funny about, if you have a phone, they're making you bankable, which is they want more people in the system. So there
right,
are going to be areas of the world where like the African quarter is getting very on board with this, where they were not bankable before, right? So
correct.
there's an audience like what you're speaking about who will never be on the internet, like the Aborigines. They're probably not going to be, you know what I mean? Like they're going to keep doing their tribal stuff, which is fine. They're probably better off. Think about it.
Right.
But the other point is that, to your question about how long cash will be around, I'd say about 10 years, because boomers in our generation, because you're Gen X, right? Roughly. But
Yeah, I guess I don't
you're
even know what I am.
yeah, you're like, right, I think it's Gen X started in 1965 or 68 or something like that.
Yeah,
So our generation won't allow it, first of all. I don't think Trump will allow it, but you have to kind of see how things, like the movies will tell you a lot of stuff. The movies
oh
tell you,
yeah,
like I don't know if you've Judge Dredd, the second
yep,
one,
yep.
Dredd, how everybody's in those big tall mega buildings, and like it's one city stretching from Boston to Washington D.C., one big concrete city, and it's like it's lawless, and everything's real time adjudicated, which is how the blockchain will work.
Yep.
And you look at, like, I don't know how you feel about like direct energy weapons, how they're like what happened in LA and Maui and things like that. But you say, how do you get people into these cities? Oh, well, now you can see how they get people into these cities. Now you can see it. They wipe it out, right? They reset it, and then they rebuild, and they use all the newest technology, and then it'll attract the people that want to live off the government. Because here's probably what's going to happen in some form or another. And this is why it's really important to turn into these topics as like a headwind rather than try and avoid it. There's going to be at some point. Okay, so always good to revisit history to kind of see the pattern of what's going to happen. There were people involved with the internet in the 90s. Bill Gates, Bezos, Mark Cuban, right? And then there were a lot of other people. Like we had the .com craze. I'm sure you remember that. Until we had the bubble bust. We're kind of in that period where there's going to be another bubble that busts, and then you're going to end up with like just a few cryptos left over that are regulatory compliant, meet the framework and things like that. Because a lot of them are going to disappear because of that. That's kind of the idea. But what happened in like the 2000, in 1999, I don't even remember when the .com bust was, like 2000, 2001, something like that.
No, I thought it was, yeah.
Somewhere around there. It's
right.
fine. Now,
late 90s.
What you had happen was, and this is what happens if you stay back and you don't get involved and you take some risk and see where things are going and really kind of lean into it. This is what you're going to get. And people were okay with it this last time. Why wouldn't they be okay with it this time? Just because they're not thinking like this. We had the .com bust, then regulation came in, and then what did you have? You had the leftovers that everybody consumed. Facebook, right. Google, Yahoo, Amazon, those were the leftovers that people considered the internet. You didn't have a chance to have a part of it anymore, but you had a chance to use it. That's what we're going through again. You have a chance to own a part of it now, or you can have a chance just to use it and what the government gives you that's left over at the end of the trail. If you don't get in ahead of time and grab your seat on the ark, because the flood's coming, the ark is open for boarding, but not much longer. It's kind of the way I say it because it's very biblical as far as I can see. The currency and the flood, like, there's going to be a lot of interesting stuff. My friends say like the Bible is like a financial book, and I don't really read the Bible, but I see it because I'm Jewish by nature, not really all that stuff. But I didn't really read the Bible, but a lot of stuff that's happening right now seems biblical to me. We talk about the flood and the rising waters, but the rising water is always a reference to currency. The rising interest rates and costs are going to drown people. They already are, right? So you have this rising thing with the liquid that where people are starting to drown, and this is like a digital ark as far as I can see, and you have an opportunity to get on board before it leaves and secure your position on the ship, or you don't. It's a choice point. Everybody has a choice to make, right? So you're going to have some form of this eventually, because the beautiful thing, I did a video about this on TikTok, and this is where people should really, really focus in on this. Blockchain and cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, we'll throw it all in there, is the first asset class. And make no mistake, excuse me. It's an asset class, my mom. It's a new emerging asset class. And it's the first asset class in history. Real estate, gold, stocks, in history that went to the little people first, rather than the institutions and the government. And the governments and institutions are coming into it now. Correct. So there's been a window of opportunity for people to see it, get with it, get in ahead of time. It's a very spiritual reversal of all the other stuff that we've ever done. There's an opportunity for you to have it before the governments give it to you. But if you wait until it's all over, just like Amazon, Yahoo, Facebook, if you wait for that, you're going to get what the government deems is necessary, because when the money system actually changes over and they do somehow change dollars, whatever it's going to be, whether it's some kind of digital currency, they're going to put you on an allowance. They're going to put you on an allowance of money that expires each month. And you're not going to be able to matriculate out of that, because that's how the system's going to be. You're going to get, this is down the road. I'm not talking about tomorrow. I'm not talking about during Trump's presidency. I'm not talking about any of that. But eventually, you're going to have. You've seen the movie Ready Player One, where they're living in the virtual video game world, and like they have nowhere to go, and they're living in stacked mobile homes like this in Ohio, and they got nowhere to go but into the virtual world and spend their coins. Look, pay attention or don't pay attention. You're going to make your bed. You know what I mean? So it's called universal basic income is kind of the idea. And you're going to be cast into where you're at. Like, let's say you make $250,000 a year doing real estate or whatever the number is. You're going to be cast into that. Okay, that's what that person makes. Let's give them that. Right. But you won't be able to move out of that. So if you're not really doing anything in society, and a lot of jobs are going to be replaced by AI, it's a unburdening in a lot of ways for a lot of people. A lot of people don't want to work. They'd rather be dependent on a system. There's a large portion of society that would prefer to be dependent on the system. It's fact. You're never going to have everybody agree on that, but you can see some people are just going to welcome it. And in 20, 30 years, you're going to have a bunch of the new generations are going to be born into it as we were born into our system, and it's going to be very normal for them. We are the crossroads. Gen X is the crossroads of all this happening. And I would say, because we won't really allow it, because we're not insane, first of all, we still have our wits about us, and we can see, I see your side of the conversation, I see your side, and then I see what's happening. Not I'm localized to just what I think is happening, right? When you can see what's happening, you can see what's going to happen, but at the same time, it's like we won't really allow, and thank God for being able to make content and being everybody's face these days. We're not going to allow the bullshit to pass. We won't. One more generation, they'll let it pass. So there's an opportunity to get out of the way of all this. Like if you know the train's coming, how long do you stay on the tracks for?
Yeah, no, great point.
The last minute? Are you waiting till the last minute? Really, bro? Look, there's a lot more opportunity over there off the tracks. Just go now. Just take care of yourself, So that's, society is about that. And it all comes down to being paralyzed by fear, things that we don't understand. And I love having conversations like this. Sometimes they go too far.
No, this is awesome. We're coming up to the 60-minute mark, which I don't let these go past 60 minutes. So let's.
We can do part two.
Yeah, we definitely. No, without a doubt, we will definitely do part two. But right now, let's close. Give me whatever you. In fact, I love how this is going. I love how you took it. So pick one more topic that you want to talk about, and let's hit that hard for the next 4 or 5 minutes.
Okay, let's move into real estate, right? Yeah. So write this down. Take this down. I want you to look at this either now or later. Like, you doesn't have to look at it now, but so the last company I consulted was BOWWhomes.com. So it's the word bow, but with 2 W's. It's actually pronounced bow, BOWWhomes.com. The website I didn't make, but I kind of retooled it and redid the content on there. And I consulted the gentleman that owned that company. And he's an ex-LA County firefighter. He's your age, divorced 3 times, got 5 kids. So it's not like, yeah, I mean, like that's that. He's kind of like, and he's a man's man and things like that. But a lot of stuff, like spiritually, there's some stuff in his way, like stops him. He ran out of money after when I was consulting him. But moving him out of the way and the idea of what we were doing, because I have ideas to improve upon what even he was doing, and like white labeling and different branding and things like that. But also how cool of a topic it is, because I have another friend that I met during the lockdowns in 2021, and he owns a 53-acre off-grid property up in St. Cloud, Central Florida. And he's a content creator like me. So like him and I really have conversations like this, really great stuff. But his vision is to turn 50% of the lawns in the world into sustainable food forests. So not only that, but he's creating schools to teach kids how to farm, to kind of reset society, that kind of thing. So we can go up there and hang out with him if you ever want to. Like, we can do that.
Yeah, no, wait. Dude, this is amazing. And people, Ben and I have not talked about any of this for a while. So what you just talked about, and I just looked at the website, that's what I'm doing. So I bought a lot. I have over 106 acres in Georgia.
Nice.
46 it was a vineyard. We're keeping the vineyard, but we're farming, increasing the farming on the other side. I had this exact conversation about farming and land and off-grid stuff with another developer. Now we're doing tiny homes and small cottages, and we're doing couples resorts, but off-grid stuff, right? We did some of this stuff in Colombia, but here's the interesting part that you just talked about. And for those that are watching, if you're looking for an opportunity, I believe this is going to be the opportunity. So today,
without a doubt, wherever you're going is definitely the opportunities off grid. There's no doubt.
Yeah. So today, and I'm going to use New York City or New York State as a big example, because there's been a big movement there in New York, more than anywhere else, but you're starting to see it spread out. The farming generation, people, my parents, generation, and even people like me are obviously dying off. So what's happening is you're going to have a lot, and you're already seeing it, a lot of available farms for sale. Hence why I bought my property, because the people passed away, the kids don't want it, and I went and purchased that land. But you're seeing that all across the U.S. And you're also seeing it in Europe, where traditional farmers are dying off. Younger generations are not interested in that. And so when I say younger generations, I say the millennials up to Gen X, they're not interested. But here's what's interesting: Gen Zs are. So in New York City, they're giving a lot of grants for people that want to get into like small farms and off-grid farming and providing local organic, or it doesn't have to be organic, but local vegetables, local foods, cattle, all that stuff. There's tons and tons of opportunity there, and you can buy these lands. Get away from these major high rises that we just talked about, because that's where they're trying to build. And I'm a big proponent of doing, get out of these mega cities. I mean, where are you living at now, Ben?
I'm in Boynton.
Okay, Boynton. Yeah. So if you look to see what's happening, and I'm going to use Miami and Fort Lauderdale as an example. When I came to Miami over 30-something years ago, when I came to Fort Lauderdale over 30-something years ago, it was rare to see a high rise. It was rare to see multi-units. Now you go to Fort Lauderdale, all these beautiful homes that were in Victoria Park, areas like that are gone. They're megaplexes now. They're shrinking in size. They're trying to jam as many people as possible. Get away from that, people. Buy land, go off grid, create a homestead, and live off your land, people. Anyway. I got off on a tangent, but go ahead and continue.
Well, I mean, so that's a friend of mine I met before I started consulting for the homes company. So I kind of had the off, like 2021. Like, here's what I know, Fernando. No matter what project I touch energetically, it expands rapidly. And that's just the result that I own. I've watched it over the years, even before I was aware of it. It was happening and with different companies and things like that. But also at this point, I'm very intentional about it. Like, you can see it in like the content that I do. I touch it and it just blows up. But I've done that with different companies. And I learned when I was doing digital marketing still in 2021. It's like kind of coming to the end of that. I was like, I don't like the traditional employer-employee client tug of war on things. It's like, spiritually, I say it's spiritating to me. It irritates my spirit. There's a number of things that do that, like driving in rush hour. It's very spiritating. Not even a little bit's okay. None of it at all, right? I met my friend. His name is Jim Gale. His property is called Galt's Landing. If you're familiar with Atlas Shrugged, he patterned it after that movie, that book Atlas Shrugged, which is about breakaway society. It's in Google. Uh-huh. If you look up Google, it's got a business listing and everything. GALTS, Galt's Landing. He does tours. He's got a couple trailer. It's all new property. 53 acres, all surrounded by water. He's got chickens. He's got this. He's got that. Vegetation he's overgrowing. He's farming, things like that. He's got a number of homes that are there still being built and things like that. Tennis court. Really kind of cool place. I go up there and hang out. But I became friends with him. And then I saw, because at the end of my digital marketing, I'm like, I don't want to touch anything professionally that isn't just doing something really, really good for people in the world, not changing stuff in the world. Like I was doing insurance claims for Hurricane Irma for a public adjuster. I'm like, yeah, getting people not money's nice, and it was a lot of money we were getting, but what am I actually changing? You know, what's evolving, right? So I took a step back professionally from everything I was doing once again and said, I don't want to get into anything that isn't just changing society for the better, because that's where I want to put my energy into. It's like if I know what I touch expands, I'm like, that's what I want to do. So I met my friend Jim, who I went up to one of his food forest installs, and I just kind of saw what he was doing. I was like, this is fantastic. I want to be a part of this, whatever that looks like. For the next year and a half, I tried to figure out how to integrate with what he was doing and things like that. Then I got involved with the homes company. And I'm like, oh, I can see this coming together, right? Two completely different topics, but they're very much like intertwined. Because I had my head pointed at going off grid. I'm like, how do I get there, right? And it always has to make sense professionally for me too. So I can tell you right now, I know enough about these homes to reproduce them without the guy who's a pain in the ass. Have a better name. And bro, these things are like hurricane proof. And his model was to have you have 30% equity when you were done building the home instead of being fully leveraged with a mortgage based on the full value of the house. So it offered an opportunity for rising house costs in Florida to have hurricane proof and insurance proof homes. Because once they're hurricane proof and flood proof, they're then insurance proof, right? You can prove it. So there's a tremendous marketing opportunity to come into Florida in the hurricane alley, right? And present a new home that's off grid, where you're not dealing with all the nonsense, but they're also, so there's a distinction I put on the website. Is something sustainable, or is it in maintenance mode? Most of us are doing things in maintenance mode. If something's not operating on its own automatically just by you starting it and it's like running on its own, then it's not sustainable. Even belief structures. If you have to keep addressing the belief structure because it keeps getting, then it's not a sustainable belief structure. The homes themselves are like, you never have to replace the roof. You don't, completely 100% sustainable compared to say like a regular home. But what's brilliant about what he was doing was this, and this is what makes it different than all the other off-grid home companies I learned about while working with this company, is he was bridging that gap between off-grid and on-grid by customizing the permitting process, because he did, this is my understanding of the way he explained it, he was involved out in LA with a few dozen other people that helped solar permitting, because he was in the solar industry back in 2013 and things like that. They standardized the solar permitting process through the municipality. So if you were walking in with $1 million solar job, you're not standing behind grandma who's trying to install a toilet. They had a separate kind of like line for solar. So they standardized it there and then spread it out to the United States to standardize solar permitting processes throughout the United States. He was going to do that with these homes and have and customize the permitting process, because he'd already done it with solar for these homes, so that they're actually single family residences, which is what it says right on the front page. They're not just off-grid homes. They're actually luxury single family residences, which comp, which is the key. That was what was.
Dude, that's a very tedious and difficult process, because you're dealing with
I don't need to do permitting. I'm not saying just what he was going to do. I'm like, personally, the design of the home, what I learned, like compared to say other off-grid home, this is what I was saying. Sorry to interrupt, but compared to other off-grid home companies, what I saw him doing was very unique and very effective, because it makes good sense what he was doing. Not only embedding advanced technology in the homes, but the way he would run the water, the way he would run because he was a firefighter, so he had advanced safety features built into the home, and things like that, and air circulation systems, and a very organized and home that allows you to expand because it's round compared to living in a box, which is what we do.
Right.
We live there's so much.
We have a geodome, which the structure shape is similar to what he's building. No, but I'm going to dive deeper into what he's doing, because it's nice. It looks really, really cool. But yeah,
I'd love to. I know enough about. I don't think working with him is a good idea. From what I've learned, I was my client, so I would say what I would say is this, and I mean this with all respect. I trust him to design the home and build it. Beyond that, he proved the leadership, paying attention, money management, like all the rest of like design and build. That I stood inside the prototype. I'm like, okay, I can see this. The drone footage that's in that video. I was in that factory where that he never quite finished it. So I can say without a doubt, like from an engineering approach, because I saw enough engineers and contractors look at it and say, that's really fucking smart, right? Part of my language. That's really smart. Yeah. And the way that he was building it is different than, say, like the geodesic dome is obviously really smart, right? But what he's doing with how he's making it a luxury home and like really, really interesting stuff. Anyways, the point is that I know enough about that to go take that idea and improve upon it without bringing the anchor with us. So if we get into conversations about that, and the guy up in the food forest loves the branding that I came up with, because I would completely call it something different that actually fits the story. I don't want to say it on here, but I would tell you privately. It fits so perfectly what it should be, because that name he's got, it doesn't jump out. It's nothing. It's a manufacturing name is what it is. It's a concept. The branding I have, it's a done deal. So if we put the team together and do it right, like, let's go. Because I'm all about that. And like, I'm okay with just getting wealthy off the XRP and going disappearing. I really am. I'm good with either way. You know what I mean? Because if it's not easy, I'm not going to do it. And I mean easy, like working with people. I'm just done with all that. This is a great spiritual lesson. We'll kind of close with this. What I learned about working with people when it comes to money, and this is right after this guy that I worked with, I said, I never want to have another person standing between me and that wall of liquid ever again. Just let me put my fingers in the wall. I'll move things around. I don't want to jump through hoops, do anything, or need to have someone approve of what I'm doing to actually get paid anymore. And I moved beyond that, which is where crypto became really like, oh, again, you come up with these, oh, that makes sense. That matches what I want. I don't have to talk to anybody for that to go up. So I'm like, all right, let that do. And what can I do that's fun and makes sense and is easy? Fernando, let's go do that. He's always been fun. Easy. Let's go, But if people are going to be a pain in the butt.
No, I hear you. I'm the same way. I am the same way.
Pass.
So, but Ben, greatly appreciate you coming on. Like I said, people, look him up. He's on all the social media channels. It doesn't matter if you're on Facebook.
Okay. So be clear, on TikTok, which is where you should, if you go to TikTok and find me, this is where you want to see my Facebook. I'm not doing a whole lot on there, but TikTok's not my name. The TikTok is the Quantum Mechanic. I fix things in the quantum, right? And I put things together, and like that. That's kind of the idea. So I'm in a red shirt. You got my profile with a microphone. If you want to follow me, watch some of this. So what I've moved into is doing a lot of XRP content, because here's the thing, and I want to share this, and we'll go. I'm looking out for people because it's becoming mainstream and people don't know what it is, and it's a dangerous space if you get taken advantage of and scammed. So I'm not telling people what to do. I'm answering questions like what we're doing here. I'm answering questions about the topic that are confusing and simplifying them and say, well, think about email, blah, 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 blah. And then people can get that. And then because I've learned enough about it and listened to the right people that see the really deep narratives of what's happening, I'm just putting that all together and just being a calm, soothing voice in the space. I'm not asking you to follow me. I'm not asking you to like the video. I'm not doing any of that. I'm just like, first of all, it's fun. It's like a toy, right? It's fun to see a video go for 1 million views. It's really kind of interesting to watch that. So that's for me. But at the same time, I feel like I'm doing God's work a little bit, because to make sure people are getting at least like the first XRP video that went really, really viral was like, let me give you the best advice you're going to find on TikTok. Stop asking for advice in the TikTok comment sections about crypto. You're going to get scammed. It's the best advice anybody can get. And then it's like, boom, everybody comes and follows. It's like just funny, right? So it's like just pointing out the obvious and also delivering as much value as I can on that topic, because there's a lot of people that don't know what they're talking about, and it's very dangerous and it's exciting all at the same time. So I'm just trying to help people look out. That's all. That's all I'm doing right now, and having fun at the same time.
Yeah, awesome. I'm gonna have his information, his TikTok handle in the description below. My beautiful people, I love you. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Follow
Lots of
me on
fun.
Instagram. I'll see you on the next one.